Boston Against the Trump Agenda, our UMass Boston-based group. It's really great to see many of you making time in your day to come out for what we billed as our Resist the President Day demonstration. Resist the President Day. Yesterday was President's Day, but today is Resist the President's Day. We are
Resist the President's Day.
And he's got the tie to Resist the President's right there. The three uniting slogans of today's rally that the group had agreed on: stop the Trump agenda, defend public education, and protect each other. Stop the Trump agenda, defend public education, and protect each other. These are three very broad slogans and demands under which a lot of other umbrella demands fall, right? And we have arranged for speakers today who are prepared to speak powerfully, sometimes quite personally, to the way that the various controversial and hurtful policies and priorities of the Trump administration have impacted our own UMass Boston community. Whether it's the racist, Islamophobic, so-called Muslim ban, which is now just being reintroduced in new form by the Trump administration through executive order, or it's another new executive order that's just been signed by the Department of Homeland Security, by our own UMass Boston alum, John Kelly, calling for 10,000 more ICE agents, 5,000 more border, and threatening to deport children, as well as other people who had been previously protected. There are many different grievances we have with this Trump regime. I'm not going to list them all right now, but I will say that I'm in agreement with many people who say we are in an unprecedented era, right? Never before has there been a regime that within 1 month of taking office has tried to take this country's government in such an explicitly autocratic, some would say even fascist direction, right? Never before also, though, has there ever been such resistance to breaking out within the United States to a new regime such as the Trump administration has elicited in last month. So there is plenty to be outraged about, plenty to be upset about, but there's also plenty, I believe, to be inspired about and to be hopeful about, which is precisely the resistance that's building and emerging in many different places and many different forms. Over this weekend, there were thousands of people, some say hundreds of thousands of people, gathering under the slogan, "Not My President," gathering on Friday under the slogan of not, the day without immigrants, with people withholding labor, withholding commercial services, to try to express the power and the righteous anger of many, many populations that don't feel represented by this illegitimate regime, or what many consider to be an illegitimate regime. We are a part of that broader movement. Whatever our numbers are, we are part of something bigger, and it's the beginning of something. And so before I turn it over to our first speaker, I just want to say, before you leave, however long you can stay with us today, and I hope you can stay to hear all the great speakers that we have, please make sure to sign up before you leave. We have a couple clipboards going around where you can sign up. You can also find us on Facebook, Boston Against the Trump Agenda, Boston Against the Trump Agenda. On Facebook, we also have weekly meetings on Thursdays from 3:30 to 5, right? 3:30 to 5. We can be happy to talk over in the ISC, in the Integrated Science Complex. The final point I'll make before introducing our first speaker, Juan, is that this rally also was called with the hope of linking the national and international controversies and policies that we oppose associated with the Trump agenda to local concerns that we have here at UMass Boston. Right, as you can see from the slogans, we're trying to link the need to defend public education to the need to oppose what this Trump regime represents on the issue of education, among other issues where clearly more education is needed. This Trump administration perhaps is itself an advertisement for the need for more free, high-quality, higher education among our population and among the Trump regime itself. Also, we're calling for people to rally to protect each other. And one concrete form that we've given to that is that we have written a petition that's been signed by close to 200 people on paper and about 50 online. It's a petition that calls for UMass Boston to become a sanctuary campus. We want to make UMB a sanctuary. And it specifically calls on our UMass Boston administration to follow the president of UMass Dartmouth in directly denouncing the Muslim ban for what it is, for a racist attack on our shared values of intellectual inquiry and human equality and due process, right? Many presidents across the United States, presidents of universities, have denounced the ban, not simply said that we're concerned about it, but denounced it in political terms, going on the offense. And our petition calls on our administration to do the same, as well as to extend material support to people on this campus who lack documents or who are otherwise being targeted by this regime. All right, so please, if you do nothing else, if you have to leave early, sign that petition, get on our list. We're trying to build, this is the beginning of something. We're only, it's hard to believe, but only 1 month into this regime. 1 month into this regime, we know further attacks are coming, but we also know that if we fight back, we can minimize the harm and perhaps even go on the offense and drive this entire regime from power, or at least drive its agenda off the agenda. Right? Is that what we'd like to see? Yeah? To stop this agenda, not only to protect our own community, but to do what we can in contributing to delegitimizing this racist, Islamophobic, in some cases somebody would argue fascist agenda of at least elements within the Trump regime. Right? So we're here today to hear personal experiences, to hear reflections, but also to hear about concrete efforts that are being made by students, faculty, and staff on our campus to empower our community and to make UMass Boston a platform for the progressive values that we think it should represent. Right? How's that sound? Yeah. All right. How about you want to do a little chanting? A little chanting here? How about money for education, not for deportation? Money for education, not for deportation. 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 I'll be trying out a few other slogans for you later, right? We want to have your voice. I also want to mention that we have a speaker lineup to try to represent different communities and different concerns. We will have an open space for you to speak under the broad umbrella of this rally. As long as you're focused on the broad umbrella of this rally, you're welcome to share your own concerns and ideas as well. All right? We want this to be an open forum while also having some major issues covered. All right? With that said, I'd like to introduce Juan Blanco to be our first speaker. I want to encourage speakers to maybe take the center so that everyone can be heard. This is not an easy space to be heard, and it's echoey, and it sometimes gets loud. So take the space, Juan, and tell us what you got, brother. All right, welcome Juan to the front.
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about the experience of immigrants, especially undocumented immigrants. I was undocumented for 14 years. I tell you, these issues are not new to this president. We've been under attack since the whole idea of illegal came about. But the problem is, as Joe was saying, this is taking a whole new level. And it is an unprecedented level, and we don't know where it's going to end up. I mean, just today, we had John Kelly, a UMB graduate, who our administration has told us we should look to be like. It's someone we should aim to, we should aim to hit his level of success. He's told us and his DHS people that we should be focusing on immigrants who may have committed a crime but have not been charged yet. So we're talking about due process. We take that to be something common sense, a basic tenet of what our democracy is like, yet we should be punishing people before they're charged of any crime. He's asking for his immigration officers to focus on people they think are a risk to public safety and national security. What kind of training do they get to be able to assess what is a danger to our public safety and national security? I'm sure a lot of the people in our own government have no idea what that means or how you can even figure that out. But John Kelly told us to calm down because our DACA recipients are not going to be affected by this. These are people who came here arguably brought against their will sometimes by their parents, so they're not affected by crime. But how can you say it doesn't affect us? This affects our parents, our sisters, our brothers, our friends, the people in our community. So even if someone who's a DACA recipient is claimed to be safe, there's no safety in that. He's pushing for state and local law enforcement to get more involved in actually pursuing this basically racially profiling laws and finding, stopping people in the street asking for documentation. He says we will ensure that we know racial profiling, happening. I know I wouldn't get stopped because I passed, but ask anybody who could be a 16th generation Mexican American or anyone that has a darker skin than I do, they're not going to be stopped and asked for documentation and treated like garbage just because they claim there's something they might not be. This needs to stop. And there's a lot of ways that aren't That don't mean you have to drop everything and put yourself in the fight 100%. That's not what we're asking. But help different organizations like SIM, the Student Immigrant Movement, who does amazing work here on campus and throughout the state. The Cosecha Movement, who's fighting for things like a day without immigrants, to show that the one thing we can withhold is our neighbor, to show that we actually do have such a profound impact in our communities. Just today, Newton is going to be kind of welcoming the idea of the welcoming city ordinance, trying to push for things like cities like Cambridge have, where police officers are not going to help the illegal federal encroachment on their sovereignty as a city by making their police departments become arguably immigration officers. These are things that we can't let that happen. And again, try to get involved, sign the petitions that we have, get yourself in our list, because we'll be sending out information on how to get in touch with these different organizations doing amazing work. You can plug into this, and hopefully, we can stop this before it becomes even worse than it already is.
So I'm going to recommend maybe speakers maybe use this as like the back of the stage, because clearly most of the people are in this direction. We're learning as we go, right? If the rally was tomorrow, it'd be warm enough for us to be outside, right? But we're inside, we're making do. Thank you, Juan. I want to point out, yesterday was President's Day, right? You know what else historic over the weekend happened? Or did anybody hear about the anniversary that passed this weekend? 75th anniversary? Yeah. Yeah. Executive Order 9066 passed by a Democratic president during World War II, which ordered the police and the military to round up Japanese Americans and put them in internment camps, right? 75 years ago this past weekend, right? A lot of people are making the argument that some of this history is repeating itself, specifically with the blanket targeting of Muslims in this country and across the world through the executive orders of the Trump regime. Again, we're waiting on the next one, right? Trump says he's fine-tuned the first one. The first one has been held up in the courts with the hope of getting around those legal obstacles, right? And we know there was a lot of resistance to that first so-called Muslim ban, and we're going to need another round of resistance to fuel that very soon. I want to point out, before I introduce our next speaker, Fatima, that we'd be mistaken to think that this history can't repeat itself. Right? Like Frederick Douglass, the newly conjured Frederick Douglass, risen from the dead, said, where there is no struggle, there is no progress, right? I'm paraphrasing here, but if you can figure out how much oppression people will put up with, that's how much they will get. Right? We may have rights on paper, but it's up to us to defend them and uphold them. Our next speaker, Fatima Amin, is one of the most eloquent students I've ever had. I've only had the privilege of having her in one class, in a popular culture class. I think you'll be privileged to hear her words, to hear her analysis, and to hear her experience shared on behalf of herself, as well as a representative of the Muslim Student Association here at UMass Boston, our largest student organization. And I want to underline that. When Muslims are being attacked or demonized or criminalized in the media by Trump, our community is being attacked. Our community is being divided or being tried to be divided, right? Right? So I want us to keep that in mind. And maybe one more chance to get Fatima comfortable. Down with the Muslim ban. Can you do a little call and response? Down with the Muslim ban.
Down with the Muslim ban.
Hands off our friends and fam.
Hands off our friends and fam.
Down with the Muslim ban.
Down with the Muslim ban.
Hands off our friends and fam.
Hands off our friends and fam.
Down with the Muslim ban.
Down with the Muslim ban.
Hands off our friends and fam.
Hands off our friends and fam.
Thank you. Fatima, take it away.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon all of you. Unfortunately, that is not always the case. While sticks and stones may harm the physical body, malicious words may break a person's dignity, their reputation, their self-respect, their confidence, their ability to trust and to love, and even their very sanity. Today, I would like to speak on behalf of the Muslim community, many of whose members are struggling to define themselves in a new language, who know what it feels like to be talked down to and talked over. I'm not here today to try to defend over 1 billion people against stereotypes or accusations of crimes the overwhelming majority have never committed. I am here to try to start a conversation about who Muslims actually are with all of their complexities and what Islam actually is. I am here to try to fill a vacuum, the vacuum of knowledge that many have about Muslims and Islam. It was suggested that I should speak today about the immigration ban. So what I'd like to say is that to many, those 7 countries may just seem like strange and menacing names on a list, but to many others, those names represent friends, family, communities, and home. So often, those countries and Muslim-majority countries in general are spoken of exclusively in the context of war and terrorism and misery and oppression, that we may forget that they contain actual human beings who live actual lives and have actual human feelings that are not so dissimilar to our own. We may forget that those 7 countries have such profoundly rich histories and cultures, or we may have never known that in the first place. We may have never learned about the wonders of Baghdad and Damascus, or about the ancient links between East Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, Rome, and India, or about the people who made each of those places great. We may have never known that they are much more than breeding grounds for threats. We may have never known that on this campus, people from those countries are our classmates and our friends and our neighbors. We may have never been aware of the fact that people who look differently from us or speak differently also possess life and dignity and history that is as complex and sacred as our own. We may have never realized that wealth and security can be measured in much more than the amount of dollars or guns that you own, or that the earth that we stand on and all that grows from it are more than senseless objects to be used and exploited. I'd like to conclude my talk by thanking you all very much for your time and your concern and your support. As a Muslim community here in Boston, on this campus, and around the country, we are deeply honored by the outpouring of concern and support that we have received in recent weeks and months. And I'm deeply honored to have been given this platform today. And to those of you who would like to learn more, or would like to learn what you can do, or who would simply like to get to know your local Muslim community, I am happy to say that we are living next to the largest Muslim community center in New England, one of the largest growing mosques in the country, which is the ISBCC near Roxbury Crossing. I invite you all to visit their website, get in contact with the leadership, or visit in person. I can personally vouch that the food there is very good. We also hold services here. The Muslim Student Association on campus also holds services here almost every Friday while class is in session in the Interfaith Sanctuary in Ryan Lounge. So I invite you all. You are all welcome to attend. And finally, I'll be sticking around, so feel free to get in contact with me. I'd be happy to do whatever I can to try to answer questions or help you all. And finally, we also have Arab Student Association on campus, an Arab Student Association, a Somali Student Association, a Pakistani Student Association. I invite you all to get in contact with them as well. And thank you all again so very much. Assalamu alaikum.
No lies, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here. 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 How about this? Make UMB a sanctuary. Make UMB a sanctuary. Make UMB a sanctuary. Make UMB a sanctuary. That's my transition. We have a petition. Just went online. We have it in paper here if you'd like to sign. But it's also online. You can find it on Facebook. You can find it if you probably Google it. It's UMass Boston petition against the Trump agenda and specifically against Muslim bans. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but what it basically calls on is our UMB administration to join other progressive administrations around the country in explicitly denouncing the ban in any form that it comes out of the Trump administration, and to supply not just information, which they have done here in UMass Boston, but legal support and even financial support to back up people who need lawyers after they're targeted by ICE, either because of the executive order or the escalated deportations that are threatening to occur. So I encourage you to sign that petition. Oliver just reminded me, 2 weeks from today, we are planning to reconverge with as many signatures as we have got, and to march over to our local administration, to Motley's office, to the president's office, and deliver those printed out or signed sheets to our administration to make clear the will of our community. March 7th, same time, 17 days, maybe outside, March 7th. Let's deliver a clear message that our community wants to stand with the targeted members and refuse the efforts to divide us and to undermine our core values as an urban public university in Boston. All right? Our next speaker, if I can get my head back, our next speaker is going to be speaking to us with a unique perspective. Many of you may know, but almost half of the people that were affected directly by the so-called Muslim ban were people and families from Iran. Almost 48%, I believe, of the people that were directly affected when the ban went into effect were from Iran. Mona is here, a member of our community who can speak to some of that experience, is going to share a little bit of the richness of Iranian and Farsi Persian culture with us today. So please listen to her. Please welcome her. Mona.
I just want to say here today I'm representing all of my friends who couldn't be here because they're too scared of being targeted and racially profiled because they're Iranian people. I would also like to say that Trump is telling everybody that the immigrants from those 7 countries are not vetted properly before they come to the United States. That's not true at all, because any Iranian before they come here has to go to an embassy outside of the country to apply for a visa and has to wait at least 45 days for an FBI check to go through before they're allowed into the country. And sometimes that FBI check takes 6 months. That was already the case before the ban. So I don't know what kind of vetting he wants to do now, but it's not true that they haven't been vetted before. So I'd like to read a poem by 13th century Persian poet Sa'di. I'll read it first in Persian and then in English afterwards. بنی آدم اعضای یکدیگرند که در آفرینش سه یک گوهرند چو عضوی به در آورد روزگار دیگر عضوها نماند قرار تو که از منت دیگران بیغمی نشاید که نامت نهند آدمی. So basically this poem is trying to say in this in English. Human beings are members of a whole, in creation of one essence and soul. If one member is afflicted with pain, other members uneasy will remain. If you have no sympathy for a given pain, the name of human you cannot retain. So in this poem it's saying that if you're not sympathetic to other people's pain and suffering, and if you're isolated from other communities and those people that are suffering, you're not a part of the collective human spirit, basically. And imagine the human race is one body and people, and one part of it's hurting, so the other part naturally hurts. So you're not part of that human body if you're not feeling other people's suffering. So the more isolated from certain groups of people you are, the less likely you are to understand their suffering, and the more prone you are to induce suffering to other people, which I think is the administration's problem. And that's exactly what he's doing to some undocumented people in the United States. So I wanted to also let you know that many of my friends are being left in very stressful situations right now because many of them are postdocs at Northeastern or BU and have just gotten their PhDs and were looking to find work here, but they have to get another visa to find work. And unfortunately, he's made a law. I don't know if it's been brought into place, but he wants to bring into place a law that will only allow them to get a work visa if they make the starting salary of $130,000 per year. That's an insane amount to make when you just get out of college. So almost nobody's going to make that. So in essence, he's pushing them out of the country. The only people who make that is like very top-level doctors. And I think my friends have worked really hard, and they've been very good friends to me too, and they've worked hard their whole lives to be able to have the opportunity to come to this country, and they deserve better than this. And also there's a shortage of doctors in the United States, physicians, and many of my friends are physicians, and they are unable to find places to sponsor the residencies. And this is hurting America itself because they're unable to find places to sponsor the residencies so they can become physicians in America and serve the people of America. So That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Mona. Yeah, Mona. I have to tell you something about Mona. Mona spent about 12 hours sitting at our table on the second floor of the campus center, passing out hundreds of leaflets over the last week. Mona, I'm not sure if you can hear, but to my knowledge, correct me if I misspeak, but has never really been an activist before, right? But it represents the huge number of people across this country who are, thank whatever you want to thank the fates, thank God, whatever you think, are stepping up in the wake of this Trump regime and are becoming activists, right? So you may not think of yourself as an activist, but you, like Mona, like many others, are welcome and are much needed to step up and to help us to take what we're building to the next level at UMass Boston and beyond. Again, we table. Next week we will have another set, thanks to Mesa, who volunteered and got us a table. We will be again next week tabling Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, at least 11 o'clock, if not earlier, till 3 p.m., getting out the word about the petition delivery, and other on-campus and off-campus events. So if you have 1 hour a week to give, you can help to build this movement. If you have a half an hour on 2 different days, you can help to build this movement. And I mean, it's only because of people like Mona that most of you know about this at all. Right, so I want to thank Mona, and also be like Mona. You know what I mean? Okay. Are you okay to go next? Okay, we had a little change. Okay, our next speaker is Rachel. I was fortunate to meet Rachel at the recent Martin Shkreli protest. The worst events bring out the best people. Rachel's going to speak a bit to us about the crisis facing the environment and the threat that this Trump regime represents, not only to the environment, but to the people that depend on it. Please welcome Rachel to the front. Be loud.
I will be as loud as I can. I'm not sure doing that. One of our mottos for today is to protect each other. And in order to do that, we need to protect our environment. Okay, so climate change is real, right, guys? Climate change is real. Yes, it is. And unfortunately, I want to highlight that climate change disparately impacts different communities of different demographics. We have toxic waste sites being put in minority communities and low-income communities. We have island nations that are disappearing, that cannot defend themselves. We have the Muslim ban is preventing environmental refugees from coming and seeking safe haven in the United States. And there's a lot of things going on that are a social justice issue, not just an environmental issue. Unfortunately, the administration has not come out and said that climate change is real and human caused. This is a problem because the denial of climate change is not just a denial of the environment, it's a denial of the people, and we need to protect each other. So I want to thank you for coming. I want to encourage you to keep standing up against these things. Keep showing up. Don't get bored. Don't get discouraged. Please keep coming. Please keep having conversations to not just protect the environment and protect each other. The last thing I want to say, some of you know my partner Tyler. My father-in-law is an Iranian immigrant, and unfortunately this week he suffered a heart attack, and unfortunately his family's not going to be able to come say goodbye to him. So just on a personal level, I would encourage you guys to sign this. You want to be a safe place.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Shimoda. I'm the director of the Transnational Cultural Community Studies program and part of the group that is organizing a teach-in. So you may have seen our flyers around campus. They say not my normal. So there's a whole series of events happening between now and the end of April. Activism events, speakers, films, and then in the week of April 24th, from noon to 6, every day, there will be over 30 hours of workshops, sessions, Know Your Rights workshops, mental health workshops, education, what am I missing? On and on.
Film showings.
Oh, film showings, and one has our little flyers, so if you'd like to take one, please save the dates, think about coming, bring your friends, bring your classes. If you are an organization or a teacher or a group of passionate students who have something to say that is organized, please contact us. The email is here if you would like to contribute a session or an action or a movement, please.
Great. Thank you very much. Great. Thank you, Karen. So I think Karen reminded us of a very important fact and a very important approach, which is that there's a lot of great work already being done at UMass Boston, right? There's a lot of educational, cultural events, events to let people know about opportunities to get involved on campus and off in ways that connect to these struggles and these concerns that are being raised, from the environmental front to civil rights to many other fights against racism, fights for social equality in various ways, right? But we often don't know about them, right? We're often at UMass Boston scrambling around. We're very busy, people going off to work, going home with family obligations, and it's hard to know what's going on. So one thing we're doing is trying to help create a better network so we know what's going on, right? And that's one thing we do at the tabling. We don't just promote what we're doing, we promote what other people are doing, right? We're trying to create that network so that all of our events are stronger. So we build a stronger network, not just a single organization, but a stronger network that can help resist and educate people about these attacks, right? We have a lot of resources on this campus. It's not just about inventing something new, but bringing together in a stronger way what's already here. Right? So please do check out the Not My Normal. Take one of these and pass them around if you're interested. There's like a dozen great events. Okay. So next up, we're going to change gears a little bit and turn to a couple of labor activists, representatives and activists in our local campus unions who are fighting to try to keep this great educational space that we have here at UMass Boston alive. Want to take some of those? Okay, pass those out too. So this is the Know Your Rights workshop, which we'll be hearing a little bit about in a moment. Actually, Eve, why don't you go next? In a moment, we will hear about the effort to make sure we keep funding and keep support for our UMass Boston community. But first, let's hear from Eve Sorum, my colleague in the English department, who has another great activity that's going on very much tomorrow.
So, thank you all for being here and for being interested. One of our huge missions, of course, in a university is to learn and to educate. And so that's what I want to tell you about. Two different examples where we can learn from you and where also we can all learn together about the situation right now. The first, on the back of a number of these flyers, is a link to a survey. You may have already received this on email. If you haven't, you can also contact the people that I will mention in a moment to get it. This is a survey, an anonymous survey that a group called the Education and Resources Committee, which is a small group of faculty who wanted to figure out what we need to do on campus, what we can do to educate and to prepare for the various changes that are occurring in this administration. And please take this survey because it's asking you what you feel like you need, what education you need, what safe spaces you need. Please take this anonymous survey and let us know. One of the things that grew out of this survey is our first Know Your Rights workshop. So this is happening tomorrow, Wednesday, from 12 to 2 in the new Science Center on the 3rd floor. This is a chance for all of us to learn about what is going to be facing immigrants, refugees, and also us as a society, what laws we need to learn about. So this is for you if you're an immigrant and you want to learn what you can do to protect yourself, what legal means you might have. There will be the Harvard Immigration and Refugee Clinic will be running this. There will be a presentation and there will be time for Q&A. This is also for you if you are a citizen and you want to learn about what might be affecting such a huge number of those of us in our community. Come, learn what you can do to help, learn what you can do to educate your friends, your family, your colleagues, your fellow classmates. This is open to everyone. There will be pizza as well. And there also is a long time for questions and answers at the end of it. You can ask questions publicly. You'll be able to ask them anonymously using note cards. And if you have further questions or want one-on-one information, at the end, Professor Andrew Long and various students at Field Training will be able to meet with you individually if you want that one-on-one attention. So
please come tomorrow, whether you are simply concerned about the state of our country and want to learn what you can do to help and how we can support immigrant rights, or whether you're concerned for yourself personally and want to know how to prepare and how to continue. So I invite you all tomorrow. Please, the flyers are going around.
Pass them around.
And feel free to ask me any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you. So, before we bring up our next speaker, I'd like to ask the people on this side to maybe just move in a little bit. We're clearly having a little bit of a pinch. It would be great if we could keep people from walking through and encourage people to walk around the outside. Do you think maybe we could close up a little bit there, but also make more space on the outside? I think that will help us to maintain the unity of the circle, right? Is that a little better? Okay, great. So now, as you can see, this is a community UMass Boston where we try to support each other, where we have educational events, know your rights events. But how can we have such events if we don't have the funding, if we don't have the support to keep high quality public education alive, right? The next speakers we're going to be bringing forward will be addressing specifically this, some of the struggles specifically located around the unions here at UMass Boston. We're privileged to have the endorsement for this event today of the Professional Staff Union, and we have with us the president of the Professional Staff Union. Please give him your full attention. I always find him very insightful, Tom Goodkind.
Thank you. You don't have to give me your full attention.
Half a minute.
Half of it, yeah. I'm speaking on behalf of the Professional Staff Union at UMass Boston. But what is a union? A union is just the organizational expression of solidarity among a diverse group of people who happen to work together. That's all it is. It's the organizational embodiment of the idea that an injury to one is an injury to all. So what is sanctuary? Sanctuary is the fundamental expression of solidarity with anyone who is facing danger from injustice or oppression. And a sanctuary is any place where the congregation practices the idea that an injury to one is an injury to all. The concept of sanctuary has its roots in religion, but any place of refuge or asylum is a sanctuary. And anywhere we have a congregation of people who swear to protect one another, whatever the cost, who express solidarity with one another, whatever may happen, and who declare by their actions that an injury to one is an injury to all, wherever that congregation exists, there exists sanctuary. Today, the Trump Confederacy is coming after all of us. Immigrants, people of color, women, poor people, unions, people who wish to protect our environment, those who depend on public education and public services, those who provide that public education and public services, and more. Look around us right here. The fact is, our UMass Boston is what the Trump Confederates would call a target-rich environment. In whatever form their assaults take on this campus, whether immigration raids, anti-Muslim slurs, bottom-feeding hipster fascists, or Supreme Court attacks on our public unions, our best and most enduring defense is in the solidarity of our UMass Boston congregation and in our demand that our campus be a sanctuary both in spirit and in fact. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. It's a classic chant from the labor movement, which never gets old. Injury to one, injury to all. 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 All right, here's a new one. Trump can't divide our UMB. We got solidarity. Trump can't divide our UMB. We got solidarity. Trump won't divide our UMB.
We got solidarity.
Trump can't divide our UMB.
We got solidarity.
Thank you, Tom. Our next speaker is a vice president of the Faculty Staff Union, though he is here speaking as himself, as far as I know, not on behalf of the union. John Hess, my colleague in the English and American Studies Department. John, come on up.
Thank you. I wore this tie especially for this. I'm impressed. It's really great to see everybody here. This hasn't always happened in UMass Boston. It's wonderful to see it. I hope it continues. We're called out mainly because of our opposition. We oppose what's been going down in the Trump administration. We should do that. However, for me, based on my experience going back to the anti-war days in Vietnam, straight through, and simply saying no must also be a portal, a way for us to also say yes. What really is going on here, it seems to me, when I hear people speak about solidarity, about protecting each other, about defending public education, is that we're also implicitly trying to put forward a positive vision. Positive vision of what we think America should be like. Because our history shows us that too often America has fallen short of its ideals, of what Lady Liberty holds forward for all of us. You have to remember that 46% or more of the people in this country voted for Donald Trump. A lot of people, that is. Whether they regret it now or not, that's a lot of people. What that does for me is it tells me that there's a lot of people I have to find a way to talk to. And I have to find a way to try to convince. The only way I can do that is not simply by opposing Donald Trump, as Dr. Martin Luther King used to say, because that puts them on the defensive all the time. The way to talk with them is to emphasize what's positive about what we're doing. Look at the values that we have. Values of protecting one another. Values of openness in America. Values of freedom and free speech. Acceptance and equality. These, to me, are the basis for us to move forward. I've been impressed by so much of what I've seen. When I went to Copley Square, I saw so many Jewish groups defending the right of Muslims to be here. When the stereotype would have been the opposite. People break stereotypes all the time. I saw slogans such as "Love Trumps Hate." I think Dr. King would have loved that one, because these are positive steps forward. So as we go forward, my whole approach to this is, and I hope we'll consider it, oppose, yes, we must. So I'm going to revoke the Japanese internment. Before that, with the Chinese Exclusion Act of the 1880s. Before that, with the Know Nothing people, the people who burned a nuns' convent, Catholic nuns' convent in Charlestown in the 1830s. We have to oppose this. We have to put our bodies on the line if we must. But at the same time, we have to take charge of what people think America is. We have to put forward these values. And I think this is a challenge for us to do so. It causes us to look inside ourselves and to think about what we want. The 21st century has not been kind to us in terms of presidents. We began with George W. Bush, the Iraq War. We then had a slight respite with President Obama. But there's one president who's bombed more Muslim countries than any other. That was not Donald Trump. There's one president who deported more immigrants than any other. It was not George Bush or so far Donald Trump. It was Obama. And now we see Donald Trump with grossness here. I hear people speaking about fascism. I'm not convinced it's fascism, but I am convinced it's really bad. And I think we have to unite around this. Again, opposition, but as a way to step forward and advance a truly positive vision of America, one that's implicit in everything we're doing and brings us together and allows us, as we go forward, and I think we will, to heal this country, bring us together around a vision that I think is truly American. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Inspired by John, I have a chant. It's familiar, but it has a new wrinkle. Listen to it once, maybe, and then we can try it. Love trumps hate. Truth trumps lies. Trump thinks he's winning. He's in for a surprise. You like it? I don't know. Love trumps hate. Truth trumps lies. Trump thinks he's winning. He's in for a surprise. Love trumps hate. Truth trumps lies. Trump thinks he's winning. He's in for a surprise. And Another humorous one, we agree that education's important. Trump and DeVos aren't fit to pass a rioting composition class. I speak with some authority on this as an English instructor. Trump and DeVos aren't fit to pass a rioting composition class. Trump and DeVos aren't fit to pass a rioting composition class. We need some humor to keep us alive in these dark times. Is Megan here? Did she have to leave? Almost. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me 1 second. I want to make one point that bridges from John to Megan. Right? John implores us to not write off the people who voted for Trump. That we need to challenges our movement to find ways to communicate to people who might have supported Trump or have not yet supported the movement against him. I want to ask the question, as a public institution, as an educator, what's the context that's necessary to have that meaningful conversation with students, to really have critical thinking, to really listen and allow students to express themselves and receive meaningful feedback? What's that context look like? What's that look like to you? Public education with small classrooms, with individualized attention, not just huge lecture halls, with teachers that don't have to teach at multiple campuses, non-tenure track scrambling, with people that can build a meaningful teacher-student relationship. Right? Every time funding is cut for our institution, every time class size is raised, right? That space, that precious space that can help to make meaningful, critical thinking education happen, gets harder to come by. Right? So there's a real link between fighting for more funding for public higher education and fighting against the creeping racism, Islamophobia, and just lack of understanding and division that threatens our community and others. I think we need to connect the dots if we're going to play good defense and even have a chance at offense. That said, actually I want to bring up Karen, who represents an activist and a staff member here at UMass Boston, Karen Aiello, also an activist with Phenom, a group that's fighting precisely for public education funding at the State House level and is trying to mobilize our community to do that as well. Please welcome Karen, and after that we will have Megan.
Using this help at all? Does that make me more... Yes? All right, we'll go with it. So thanks for the introduction, Joe. My name is Karen, and as he said, I'm a Phenom representative from the UMass Boston chapter. Phenom stands for the Public Higher Education Network of Massachusetts. Is it better if I just yell? Yeah. Okay, I'll just yell. I'm also a current part-time graduate student, and I am an alum of this campus, so I feel your pain in many ways. I'm one of the many staff members working hard to make sure that your tuition never rises again. Phenom is a collection of students, faculty, staff, and other allies of the Massachusetts community dedicated to securing the same level of state funding that has historically been given to state campuses, and we believe this is the only way to keep the cost of higher education affordable enough to provide those of all socioeconomic statuses equitable access to higher education. In an era where our higher education is a prerequisite to an individual's livelihood and economic security, higher education is not merely a luxury to be purchased, but a necessity and a basic human right. Upon Trump's election, I found myself ruminating on one thought. An equitably educated America would not have voted for Trump. As the cost of public higher education continues to climb, it increasingly limits access to more and more of our most diverse citizens, and in so doing, contributes significantly to the marginalization of minority and lower income groups. And although the fight for public education is not a new one, it is more critical now than ever before to protect it. The Trump administration poses one of the greatest threats to public education we have yet to see, not only in higher education, but also our entire K-12 public education system. Trump's blatant disregard for the value of public education has been highlighted by the Secretary of Education appointment of Betsy DeVos, someone with no experience in public higher education, someone who rationalizes the presence of guns in our schools for potential grisly attacks, and someone who cares so little about public education that she advocates for the extinction of the entire Department of Education that she has been entrusted to oversee. As we face these attacks on public education, we must realize it's up to all of us to defend it. Together, we can call on the state of Massachusetts, the birthplace of higher education, to be the first to reform public higher education, to be the first to preserve affordable access to higher education, and consequently to be the first state to truly educate a diverse population and not just those who can afford the exponentially rising costs of higher ed. Please join us in doing just that on March 1st at Phenom's 2017 Advocacy Day event, as we gather as a group of students, faculty, staff, alumni, and community members of our state universities, community colleges, and the UMass system to advocate for a high-quality, debt-free public higher education system. Tell your representatives that Baker's recent proposed support of an increase of merely 1% towards public higher education is not enough. Tell them to support the Fair Share Act, a proposed tax of just 4% to those with an income greater than $1 million a year to go toward funding public education. Tell them to fully fund campus budgets, to allow our public higher education institutions to freeze the rising costs of tuition and fees. Tell them to protect in-state tuition and financial aid to our targeted DACA students. Tell them to route future tax revenues from recreational marijuana taxation towards public education. Tell them to support our adjunct faculty who've lectured thousands of students over many years who are currently facing pink slips. Tell them your personal debt stories. Tell them in whatever way is important to you that as their constituents, you want your government to support and value public education as much as we do. There are flyers going around with details of our March 1st event at the State House with a link on them to register. And if you can't join us in person, please join us in our concurrent phone campaign, the details for which are on the back of that flyer. On 2/28 and March 1st, we're encouraging folks to spend just 2 minutes to call their legislatures to relay these messages to them over the phone so your voice may still be heard, even if you can't physically stand with us. There are also flyers going around that are asking for your participation in a survey about the UMass Boston budget cuts and how they've affected you. That helps us bring these arguments to administration and our government. So if you haven't done it yet, please fill out that survey. And finally, I'll close with a Lemony Snicket quote that has come very dear to my heart these past few months. Trouble and strife can cover this world like the dark of night or like smoke from a suspicious fire. And when that happens, all good, true, and decent people know that it's time to volunteer. The Trump presidency has certainly enshrouded us in trouble and strife, and now it is our time to volunteer. We hope you'll join us on March 1st as we volunteer to advocate for equitable education and future for us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. So who's with me? I want to go down on March 1st in the morning through midday to the State House. That's a Wednesday, right? It's a Wednesday. Who can make it? We can go down there and we can speak, we can meet with legislators, we can, make them hear our voices, get some media attention on the fact that public higher ed and public education are being starved for funding year after year. And every year, the amount of money the state gives per student is going down and down. And that makes tuition go up, that makes jobs get cut, that makes classes get more crowded, right? We gotta take the fight to them. How many people can make it? Wednesday morning? All right, let's do it, all right? I want to call your attention also to one place where you can, a clearinghouse for information about issues like this. There's a Facebook page called Save UMB. You can add that, it's a group, you can just join it, and there'll be a lot of reminders about things related to saving public education here at our university. Next up, I have two more speakers, two student speakers, and then we'll open up some space for others who might have something pressing to share with our community. We have something serious and something humorous. Which would you like first? Little humor? Serious. Serious, and then we'll finish with the humor? All right, I'd like to introduce you to Joe Gilmore. He was one of the leading organizers of the Martin Shkreli protest last week. He has some lessons and insights to share from that experience, as well as from other organizing he's been doing on this very campus. Let's welcome Joe to the front.
My name is Joe Gilmore. I run Students for Sensible Drug Policy here at UMass Boston. As an advocate for legalization of marijuana, I am also a proponent of free speech. If anybody's not aware, last week when we tried to protest Martin Shkreli, UMass Boston administration and the police attempted to prevent us from peacefully expressing our views. And that's not right. That's not actually legal. We have a right to express our views peacefully. Right now, are we threatening anybody right now? No, we're not. We have a right to be here and speak and express our thoughts that we have concerns on issues that will affect our society. And I just implore everyone to keep on exercising your rights, because if we don't use these rights, then we're going to lose them. All right. So that's the biggest takeaway here is it's a about conduct. It's not about the content that you're putting out there. As long as we're nonviolent and we're peaceful, then we have a right to express our views. And that's it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. No, I think that's very important. We had Eve Sorum earlier giving out the Know Your Rights workshop for people specifically who feel they may be targeted by the state or by racist attacks in the wake of this election. We should also talk about our First Amendment right to free speech at this public, state-funded, public-funded campus. We have the right to speak not just in the parking lot where the students were confined until we struggled with campus security and clarified the Constitution, but inside these public buildings. Right? We need to assert that right, assert it peacefully in a principled way, and we need to support each other in that, right? Having a right on paper doesn't make it a reality unless we continue to use it and make sure those muscles stay healthy, right? So I was proud of Joe and others last weekend for standing up in that way. Our last scheduled speaker is another UMass Boston student and young activist, Megan Elvis.
I'm what people call an anchor baby. My parents were both undocumented immigrants from Brazil. My father crossed the Mexican border twice. My mother came here on an expired visa. So that's just a little background story for me. I'm going to be reading some of Trump's tweets to you guys, just so we can end off on a nice, funnier note. He doesn't exactly have good English or proper grammar or cohesive sentences. All the basic things that go into writing. Or actually any common sense either. But, that's another thing. So yeah, all right, hold on, let me just find it. So my first tweet that I want to read out to you guys is from February 3rd. He said, "We must keep quote-unquote evil out of our country." Who is this quote-unquote evil? And what is quote-unquote evil even mean? If it's not true evil, then why do we need to get it out of our country? Why does it even need to be imposed? Does that even make any sense? No. Quote-unquote evil is contempt.
Yes. Evil mongers. Yeah.
And then on February 3rd, he tweeted, "Professional anarchists, thugs, and paid protesters are proving the point of the millions of Americans who voted to make America great again." Are any of you paid? Are any of you here? Are any of you here to prove his point or being paid to be here? No, this is something we are passionate about. This is something we think is important. This is to protect ourselves, our communities, our friends, and our family. And we cannot stop just because somebody's going to say, "Oh, they're paid." We cannot let them discredit us. We are here, and we are here to stay. I got another one from February 2nd where he said, this is on the UC Berkeley protest, where he said, "If UC Berkeley does not allow free speech and practice violence on innocent people with different points of view, no federal funds." So he's planning on limiting free speech to allow free speech. Whose free speech are we protecting? Who are we protecting? Who are we allowing to hurt? And who are we letting speak and spew hate and discontent and just allow to divide us even more? We cannot allow this. It's not okay. We must stand. We must come out. If we just let them say everything they want to say, we're just going to end up right back to where we were in the 1950s. We don't want that. We don't want to go backwards in time. We're here for progress. We're here to support one another. We're here for love. We're here for caring. And we're here for, just solidarity. We're all people. We all deserve equal rights. We all deserve equal place in the society and in this country. And on January 29th, he tweeted, "Christians in the Middle East have been executed in large numbers. We cannot allow this horror to continue." Yes, Christians are being murdered in the Middle East, but the number one victim of ISIS and of all terrorist attacks are Muslims. So where is their protection? Where is the outrage for their murders? Where is that? Why can't we acknowledge that? Where is all his outrage for the millions and millions of Muslims that are being bombed every single day? Where's that outrage? And on January 15th, he tweeted, "For many years, our country has been divided, angry, and untrusting. Many say it will never change. The hatred is too deep." And he says, "It will change."
You are the hatred. You are the untrusting. You are the division that is in this country. You are causing it. We are asking for people to support and love and stand in solidarity with one another. You are the one who is deporting us, who is separating us, who is dividing us into categories, not us. And lastly, just for a little, on something that actually happened today, Donald Trump actually went to the African American Museum and he made a speech. And in a funny quote by New York NY Lit Girl, 36 minutes ago, she said, Ben Carson, she's pretending that she's Donald Trump and she's saying this. Ben Carson, listen, I need you to come with me to the African American Museum so it looks like I'm not racist. And it's a pretend quote, and then there's a nice little, it's funnier if you can see it. You can't see it, I'm sorry. I'll post it on the page later, so if you do follow the Boston Against the Trump Agenda page, it will be posted on there so you can all laugh at it. And lastly, I just have one more. It's from when Trump tweeted, "See you in court. The security of our nation is at stake," and this was about his Muslim ban. And the ACLU quote tweeted it and said, "Cash us outside, how about that?"
Thank you, Megan. It's one of the silver linings on this dark Trump cloud that, that this reactionary regime, this conservative racist regime, this billionaire and bigot regime is also often incompetent. I actually think it's one of its virtues. One of its relative virtues is the fact that some of these wannabe fascists, or whatever we want to label them, don't have their shit together. That's a real opportunity for the forces that want to defend labor unions and defend people's rights and want to defend the unity of our community. But I have to say, we can see even incompetent folks who seem to be out on the real extreme fringe, if unopposed, can exert a lot of power. We really need, we can laugh at them when they say ridiculous things that seem beyond the pale, but we know that these forces can move the political spectrum, can make things that were considered out beyond the pale, within the pale, and we need to be pushing back. We need to organize, and this is just basically my final pitch for getting involved, signing up. Even if it's just 1 hour a week, it's a lot of fun to table. You get to meet a lot of people. You get to connect, and we can grow this. We can grow this in various forms. Again, in 2 weeks, we're going to be delivering the petition. Hopefully, we're going to have 1,000 signatures to help declare UMass Boston a sanctuary campus, and to get our UMB administration speaking publicly, denouncing this ban in a way they have not yet. Please join us in that effort, and if you have other ideas about how this group can stand up against the Trump agenda locally and nationally and beyond, please, we're here to help facilitate your initiative. We're not looking for followers, we're looking to help cultivate leaders, right? To help people stand up for what they believe and to keep UMass Boston, to bring out the best mission UMass Boston can in this dark time. All right, that's all I have for you today. If other people would like to step forward and speak, this is your chance to do so. Please, I can't recall your name by this, but you introduce yourself to the group.
I'm Dal Jakor Clark. Point of reference, as the perspective that I'm speaking from, I'm not from the inner city, I am from the hood. My mother was a revolutionary. She'll never get called that in society because that's not how revolutionaries are. They are not revolutionaries to be called revolutionaries. So I say that as a point of reference. The reason why I'm here speaking in front of you is because I need to bring attention to something that the Donald Trump administration, and on a broad scale, whoever Donald Trump supporters are, do not care about, the Africana Student Center. The Africana Student Center department is under attack. Politics is war without bloodshed, so I say that in all seriousness, nothing fancy. It's under attack. And Black history classes are under attack throughout the country. You would need to do your own research on that because I did not compile a list of facts to come here with you today. But the situation, as far as the Africana Studies Department, it's lethal. I'm not being extreme. Politics is war without bloodshed. Donald Trump is a very dangerous man. He's a businessman. I was taught that in business, you kill the competition. So imagine how dangerous Donald Trump really is. So back to the point, I came here in 2009. My sanctuary was an Africana Studies department, okay? Because coming from the hood, talking about the inner city, nobody wanted to talk about what I really need to talk about. Nobody still really needs to talk about what I really need to talk about. So what I need to talk about here is to represent a large group of people, a large group of people, a large group of people who represent a huge group of people. Because imagine having a minor in Africana Studies class. Imagine needing to graduate soon, and there's no stability because it may not exist pretty soon. Imagine that you are a major. Imagine that you're a major here at UMass, here in college, and your family culture is not about college like that. And you're promising them to be a success. Yet your department, your major, is under attack. I am jobless right now. I am unemployed. I've been unemployed for so long that no matter how much I try to get a job, the truth is, the only thing that people will recognize is me having a job, no matter how hard I try to have a job. I'm 30 years old, so with everything I got stacked against me, I also have ageism. And what I'm speaking about is nothing special. There are people here who are the opposite of me, who have 2 jobs, will have families to raise, who are suffering from PTSD, and have never even seen the battlefield as far as going overseas to go to war. Because of what happens right in the streets, because of what happens right in the homes, I have been labeled with PTSD, and that's real for me. I'm 30 years old. I can't remember what I used to remember just because of natural aging. PTSD, I can't remember what I need to remember like I used to remember because of PTSD. How would I describe PTSD? All I could do is talk about movies all day because it is an extreme reality. And there are people here who have been to war, who have never left Boston, who have never left Massachusetts, who have children to raise, and a lot of them are in the Africana Student Department and cannot just go and learn. They have to go and learn and know that the administration is under attack, and this isn't special in the sense that it is happening state to state to state. So please, when you go to march on Wednesday, please, whether you're taking a class or not, please make some noise about it. Please, if you've only taken one class, make some noise about it, because Donald Trump is the problem. I despise Donald Trump, and his administration will destroy a lot of what the movement has built. This administration has done nothing to show any students that it really cares about Africans. It's been called a disgrace to the University of Massachusetts. So I'm in a bit of a different world. I'm not there with the school pride to talk about